Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story, and let's queer up the USA view. Religion is protected by the GOP until churches defend LGBTQ. The GOP playbook against the LGBTQ community has used freedom of religion as a core argument. But what happens when the faith community supports LGBTQ civil rights? What happens when the church is LGBTQ-centric? More than 150 violent and hateful incidents have targeted LGBTQ-affirming faith communities across the United States since June 2022. And new data from GLAAD's Alert Desk shows that the number is still climbing. The report released Tuesday paints a chilling picture of how extremists are attacking not only queer people, but also the churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples that welcome them. These incidents include death threats, vandalism, arson attempts, physical assaults, and bomb threats. In just the last year, the number of documented attacks jumped from 60 to 151. Among those attacked is Bishop Mariann Edgar Budde, the Episcopal leader in Washington, D.C., after she called for mercy for LGBTQ people and immigrants during the National Prayer Service sermon. Then, President Donald Trump demanded an apology. He has no place to demand anything, but Budde refused. She later shared that she received death threats and what she called death wishes. Still, she said queer communities responded with gratitude and strength. In New Jersey, the First Congregational United Church of Christ was threatened with being burned down after the false claims from Moms of Liberty. Connecticut's Immanuel Congregational Church was vandalized days before its prized event. And in Michigan, a man was arrested last year for plotting mass violence against queer people and inclusive religious spaces. As right-winged rhetoric escalates, GLAAD urges everyone who witnesses anti-LGBTQ threats to report them to their alert desk. Because in this political climate, religious freedom is protected until it stands with queer people. Okay, I've said this a million times. Violence is not for anybody. It should not ever get to violence. And just because you don't understand something doesn't mean you should turn to violence. And in this climate, I think that is the first go-to that everybody is doing. People don't understand religion. They don't understand how religion and LGBTQ can coincide because they've been brainwashed by a book that was written a million years ago.
And translated a million times.
Exactly.
By many people.
By many people.
I love the parts where they say what Jesus said and they weren't there.
Well, trust me.
Leave us alone in the garden. They weren't there. This is what he said.
And you know, and I've had my problems with organized religion for most of my life, but I have in my heart of hearts that, you know, religion was there to preach good. And, you know, and we are now finally seeing religion paired and saying, you know what, you are accepted here, you know, and you're welcomed. But now we still have people that are like, no, that's not my religion. You're not my religion. So we're going to burn you down. And, you know, that just is.
Yeah.
I can't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Religion has taken a front seat recently so much, right? Yes. The whole division of church and state doesn't even freaking exist, right? Unless you're not Christian. Right? That's the thing, right? Like, it's all well and good if you're religious and Catholic, but if you're anything else, then there's an issue, right? And if you support LGBTQ, then there's an issue, you know? Me and Dale are part of Unity on the Bay. He's a staff member at Unity on the Bay. Unity on the Bay is predominantly Black, brown, and queer. That's what we are, right? We have a bold, incredible minister who wants to be bold and incredible, right? He wants to do Trans Day of Visibility because he's never done it. Which we did because he'd never done it, right? Because that was part of our community that he had not directed, right?
And he is gay, by the way, married and has a child. So our senior minister is, and more than half of our staff is gay. So. And
we're also at a Jewish temple.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to, you know, and because of these reasons, we have security outside for every single event, every single church service that we have. We have to, because we want to make sure that our congregants are safe and they feel safe. But we shouldn't have to. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to go to church and there be a cop there in the front, you know? And again, it has to wash over us that right now we're at a queer church. Sunshine Cathedral, literally, #myqueerchurch is a queer church led by queer bishops, you know, who are incredible. Love you, Darrell. Love you, Robert. you know, and they were targeted last year. They were vandalized last year, you know, and they've had to take certain measures to also make sure that their congregants are safe, you know. And, you know, this is the world that we're living in right now, that it's like if you support our community, you might be threatened to this degree. And let's talk about Bishop Budde. All right, that woman is incredible, incredible. Shiro, little woman, right? And like they're in front of Donald Trump,
gentle,
right? Gentle. I could even say almost frail to a degree, you know. And she's there in front of all those people and did not mince words and took her platform moment to say, "Please have mercy on people."
Yep. And nationally,
she didn't say anything horrible. No. She didn't say you're a disgusting piece of shit that should stop tanning.
Right.
She didn't say anything like that.
Yet,
you know, and yet she got death threats. Like that. I mean, come on.
But look at I mean, history. Look at how many wars have been fought in the name of a god or a religion. I mean,
almost all of them.
You're right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I grew up in a Methodist church, so I've been around church my whole life. But of course, I've worked now on staff for almost 12 years, and I've lived what we would call maybe a spiritual life. And we're very fortunate that we have chosen to be in a spiritual community where God embraces all, as an existence, as an entity, as all of us. We're one. There is no guilt. There is no shame. That's the kind of religion I'm proud to be a part of. The kind that includes, that loves, that embraces joy, peace, harmony, all the positivity you can think of. And that's not what the majority of it is, though, I'm sad to say.
A religion that brings love instead of hurt or fear.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, this is based in fear. This has nothing to do about religion. This is people that are afraid and don't understand something, and so they lash out.
And I'm going to add, the people who attack these churches, I'm assuming are God-fearing. Just picture this. Hold my hand and picture this. They die. They go to the heaven that they believe in, and God meets them at the door, and God says, "Didn't you attack one of my buildings?"
I got it all here on camera.
You that like egged the house of the Lord? Get the fuck out of my face. That's what's gonna happen to God-fearing people.
Yes.
You dumbasses. You're going to hell.
Yes, and the Lord Jesus God, whatever Buddha, whatever you call him, he curses, just like Bonnie did.
You motherfuckers.
That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform